for strangers. Believe me when I say, loving me is loving danger. Your heart is bound to break. I walk alone in the night, neath the pale moon. Loving's for the fools. Baby, beware of my bite. I'm alone, I'm alone, I'm a lone wolf. 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 I'm a creeping through the shadows and the corners of your mind. I go where the wind blows. I run but I don't hide. I hear the call of the wild, whispering the name. No, I can't be tamed. My heart belongs to the night. I'm alone, I'm alone, I'm a lone wolf. 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 I'm a
I think you're muted on Twitch.
I am no longer muted on Twitch. Okay, amazing, great. So, what? Yes, anyway, quickly recapping, I'm going to be talking about how to improve your aim, but this will not cover everything because aiming is really difficult and complicated. However, it is kind of actually really simple. So, aiming is a motor skill, just by motor control, which makes it sound reasonably simple. And you will basically get better at whatever you try to do as long as you are consciously trying to fix it. So The short version, if you just want to drop in for like 5 minutes, is deliberate practice, isolate things, and then try and integrate them into your gameplay. So let's start with sensitivity. As many of you know, I have written an entire aim guide on this. I'm working on my next version, which is an absolute monster, but you know. So let's talk about sensitivity. So your sensitivity in is going to differ depending on personal preference, what kind of role you play, and also whether or not you're playing Valorant or other games as well. Because if you also play Fortnite or like Overwatch or something like that, you're going to want a slightly higher sensitivity, or even Apex, that you're going to be able to play both games with reasonably well. Otherwise you'll be swapping between them, and then you'll have to train on 2 different sensitivities, and that's just like double the work. So where are we? So sensitivity in Valorant can be described in EDPI, which is your effective DPI, which is your dots per inch. Basically how sensitive your mouse is. And this is your mouse's DPI, which is basically how much it moves when you move your mouse, just in your day-to-day usage, not in-game, multiplied by your in-game sensitivity. So your DPI multiplied by your in-game sensitivity gives you something, because you could be playing on 0.3 in-game, which is fine if you're on 800, but not fine if you're playing on 1600 DPI. So that is a consideration. If you don't know what don't know what your DPI is, Google it. Maybe you have some mouse software. Who knows? I play on 1600. Some people play on 400. Some people play on 800. I play on 1600 because I think there is very slightly less input lag, and also I have 2 monitors and I want to be able to move my mouse around. And, you know, also I play League of Legends, so I want to be able to move my mouse quickly when I'm playing that. So, some people, let me backtrack. Valorant is a game which prioritizes lower sensitivity. I mean low sensitivity compared to other games. And the reason for this is Valorant is quite a slow game. It can feel very fast-paced at times, especially if you're low rank and you get overwhelmed. But compared to things like Overwatch, there's a lot less going on. And not only that, but people don't have a lot of movement abilities. We don't have people, you know, flying around, dashing around, teleporting, rewinding, flying all the time and everything. Like, yeah, Jet might updraft, Jet might dash, she might have a raise using her satchels, but she uses those once. So really, we only need to be able to do a 180. And that is 180 like this. So you should be able to do a 180 with your arm in Valorant. This is not Valorant, but you need to be able to do a 180 with your arm. And then and any more than that is unnecessary, really, because you don't need to be doing 360s. You don't need to be spinning around in every direction. Now, because crosshair placement is so important, we also need to think about the fact that we want to have as much control as possible near to our crosshair. So we don't need to be doing big flicks like this all the time. If you are having to do huge flicks like this, you're playing it wrong. So we want to go for as much control as possible within like this range of motion, right? Because if you're holding somewhere and someone comes, it's flick, 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 flick. Maybe do larger ones occasionally, but the majority of your aiming is going to be within this smaller range of motion. So this is why we play on lower sensitivity, because it gives you as much control as possible over that smaller range. Okay, right. I also want to mention that there is no perfect sensitivity, because there are programs, there are videos, there are people online that try to sell you on finding your perfect sense, which is unfortunately kind of nonsense. There is what you are used to, but really there is particular ranges that are good for certain games, good for certain, desk setups. Maybe you have a really small desk. Even good for certain like mouse or a certain mouse pad if you've got something like a SkyPad. All there is a sensitivity, and that sensitivity will have drawbacks and advantages. And there is no perfect one. You will have a sensitivity where you can go, oh, this feels great, but I can't do large flicks. Or, oh, this feels amazing, but I'm really slow. Or, this is great, but I don't have any control over small targets. And that's going to happen. So a lot of improving your aim is about tackling your weaknesses, the ones that are relevant to the game anyway. So if you're just like, oh, I really struggle when people are at long range. Okay, great. Go train small targets. If you're just like, okay, I play Neon and I can never stay on people when I have my ultimate, go train your tracking. If you play on like very high sensitivity, maybe try lowering it, work more on that precision. You play on very low sensitivity, train that speed because that's what you're weak on. Okay. All right. Now that's out of the way. Let's talk about effective reaction time, because that's really important. Lots of people talk about having slow reflexes, slow reaction time. Some people conflate this with visual reaction time, but it's not. So what I call the effective reaction time is a combination of your visual reaction time, which is how long it takes your brain to register your that there is a target on screen. This is what gets tested if you do like AIM Lab's visual reaction time thing. I think it's called like a detection or something. This is what you have on the human benchmark. Basically, as soon as you see something on screen, you click. That is your visual reaction time. Now, if you simply click as soon as something appears on your screen, you're not going to hit anything because you're just clicking. That's your reaction. And that's just how long it takes your brain to register there's something there and for you to be able to act on it. Some people have very low reaction time. Some people have high reaction time. It gets better with practice and training, but you can't train reaction time in general. It has to be context specific. It will get better if you're hydrated, if you've eaten, if you're sleeping enough and sleeping regularly. It can get better if you exercise regularly because your body's good at it. It gets better if you aim train, if you play Valorant, if you play Deathmatch. There will be a natural cap there, but one of those like genetic caps. Some people are super talented. But I would argue that it only matters in like a very small number of cases, and that's even in the pro scene. Even amongst pros, there are some people who are just faster. So people who have very, very fast reflexes. G2 Mary is one of those. Her reflexes are incredible, but she's also clearly trained a lot. But she's not invincible. People kill her. So it only matters for that one small aspect. So above your visual reaction time, there is a processing time. And we combine the visual reaction time and the processing time to create the effective reaction time. And how long it takes you to process something is, again, going to be slow. It's going to be slower or faster depending on your physical state, how warmed up you are. And this is something that we can train. So looking at this scenario in particular, so this is a static click timing scenario. I'll explain that in a second. But this mouse control is super easy for me, right? This is like I can move my mouse here, like no problem, right? So it isn't a mouse control issue. But when I play this, so my current goal right now is to hit 4 targets per second. I'm on about 3.5 targets per second, as you can see here. When I get other people to do it, they usually sit on about 2 targets per second, 2.5 targets per second. What's stopping you from going higher? It's not that these are small targets, because relative to the space, they're actually quite big. If I just do this real quick, you're going to see that I'm going to miss. And you see I overflicked that, and it's because I didn't fully process where this target was before I went to click on it. And this is the processing time that I'm talking about. We also see it in things like close to fast strafes. This is a tracking scenario. Not super relevant for Valorant, but it's stuff like this, where people will really struggle to process the target moving and changing direction before they can react. So it'll change direction, and they'll spend so long going, wait, it's changed direction, by which point it's already changed direction again. And this is why we build up. And you'll see this in Valorant as well. Like, think about every time when you have spotted an enemy and then missed. Like, and the enemy wasn't even looking at you, but you still miss your shot. And it's because you're not actually taking the time to process it. You're skipping the processing because you're feeling that you have to get it done now. This is one of the big things I say when people say that they're inconsistent. It's usually because they end up shooting before they're ready because they feel like they don't have time. This is usually where people spray as well. This is where they crouch spray, where they panic because they're feeling like they don't have time. Maybe you literally don't have time. Maybe you haven't trained enough. Maybe it's not physically possible. But a lot of the time, it's just nerves. So the processing time will be a lot worse when you're anxious. But if you're expecting something, if you're holding an angle and you expect them to peak, you're going to click faster than if you didn't, than if you weren't expecting it. And this is why I say that in Valorant, a lot of the work done towards winning a gunfight is done before the fight. And that's just thinking about what they're going to do. Now, so obviously they're going to do unexpected things. This is why we train. But a lot of it is just, okay, so I'm expecting them to swing right here. If I'm ready for them and I'm actually aiming and I imagine that I'm aim training, then they peek and I click the head. Great. If, let's say I check my map, or maybe I'm a little bit distracted and then I see them peek, I have to go, there's an enemy, I have to react to that, they're moving here, I have to try and line up my shot, and that's really hard. Whereas if I'm already waiting and I go, yep, I have confirmed that the enemy is there, which I was expecting, I thought they would, they can only swing so far, I just make a small adjustment and then I kill them. So that's your effective processing speed. And you'll see this if you haven't warmed up, you go into deathmatch and you try and pay attention to where the head is before you click. You'll sometimes find that it kind of blurs in your mind. The reason why I'm spending so long talking about this is because it's really important, and you'll find yourself hitting this mental cap faster than you'll hit the physical cap. So one of my students, Elik, who is also one of the Galorants teachers, I've got her working on a particular area of aim. And she can go fast enough, she can move quickly enough, but she can't do it with accuracy because she can't process the targets that fast. So that's what she's working on right now. Okay, cool. So let's talk about click timing. This is your click timing is the kind of aim that's used in Valorant. It's things that you see in the majority of aim lab things. And it's things like this, where one click and it dies. So you see the goal here is to click the target at the right time. That's why it's called click timing. It is also things like this, where the target is moving and we have to click at the right time, just like that. So it is always important to remember that the skill you're training here is the timing of the click. You can think of it as just, oh, I just need better aim. That's not really helpful. You have to think, okay, I need to click at the correct time. And remembering that will help you a lot. So why would you even use an aim trainer, right? Like, why would you not just play the game? And playing the game is really important. It's great. You should play the game. It will help you improve your aim. But it can be difficult if all you do is grind ranked. Your aim will get better, but you won't be able to solve some like really gnarly issues. Like we had someone in the Game Help and Tips channel in Galorants. If you're watching on Twitch and you're not in Galorants and you're eligible, you should totally join. Who was saying, how do you utilize your arm more? I'm a wrist aimer subconsciously due to playing League on high DPI before transferring to Valorant. And this person is Ascendant, by the way. And the answer is you do it. You consciously make the effort and you build up that skill away from Valorant. You build up the mouse control away from Valorant. You work on very wide things, things that involve things that make you use your arm, and consciously using your arm to flick in places that are not in the middle of a Valorant game. When you know you can do it in lab conditions, in experiment conditions, in nice, safe conditions where there isn't any additional pressure or complicated things, or worrying about like, where's the enemy positioned? How do I move? All of that stuff. If you can do that outside of Valorant, then you can begin to implement it in Valorant or in Overwatch or whatever game you play. Apex. So you want to really... So if there are problems in your aim, in your gameplay, see if you can do it outside of Valorant. If you can't, then that's the problem. If you can, then the problem is integrating that into your gameplay, which I will talk about a little bit later. But let's go over a little bit more of the categories of aim. So, as I said, Valorant uses click timing. A lot of people, a lot of top aimers, will train a lot of static click timing. Static as in the target is not moving. The opposite of that is dynamic, where the target is moving. Both exist within Valorant, but static click timing is useful specifically because it trains your ability to hit a target and process it. So it teaches your ability to actually process these targets. And if you flick fast enough, it doesn't matter that they're moving. This is really good for just building that base mouse control and the ability to process whether or not you're on target and decrease how long that takes. The smaller the target, the harder it gets. And the faster you go, the harder it gets, because this target is not hard to hit. I mean, like, you have a minute to do the scenario. I can kill this target. I just click on it. The real test in aim training of improving your aim is killing more targets within the same amount of time, right? So, I mean, that seems obvious, right? Like you're pushing your high scores by clicking more targets. Okay, but do you do that in Valorant? Do you deal with targets one after another? Do you kill them within a second of each other? Probably not. Which means you're going to really hit a cap in Valorant unless you're able to find a way to do that within your games, within your practice, like in death matches or something. So that's one of the integration steps. I do recommend training static click timing, especially since sometimes people don't stand still. But also, it's kind of boring. When you're talking about dynamic click timing, so things like this, Pasu is a well-known one. There's just 5 targets which bounce around like this. There you go. There are a variety of speeds, sometimes different dodge patterns, sometimes different sizes. And what you want to do with targets like this, everyone's natural inclination is to follow them, to go like this, until they figure out what the correct timing is. And this is why it's click timing. But you have to remember that we want to have efficient movement here. We don't want to make things hard for themselves. Like, you don't want to make it hard for yourself. Like, this kind of mouse control is actually kind of difficult because you're not just training the click timing, you're training your tracking and your smoothness and your target reading and your ability to stay on target and all of that stuff. And that's not very helpful. You can do the tracking variant if you want, but you have to remember the target's moving. Let it do the work for you. Just intercept it. Just get in the way. And this is the best way to do it. There are some YouTube videos that say you shouldn't, but if you look at the actual top performers, they are intercepting and they're focusing on targets which are moving towards them because they're making it as easy for them as possible. So they're going targets that are moving towards them and close to their crosshair. Now, I don't always do that, sometimes because there aren't any, sometimes it's a bad habit, and sometimes there are targets which are just, you know, I can process them and they're not a difficult shot. So why would I do that? This is useful if someone swings. So if we imagine that someone is swinging a corner, right? You don't want to hold on the corner. You don't want to hold on the wall. You want to hold away from the wall. If we imagine this is the corner. You don't want to hold like here. You want to hold like here. And this is because if they swing, you don't want to have to follow them because you don't know when they're going to stop. You don't know what they're going to do. You're going to have to basically follow them and track them and keep that good timing and then click on them, which is really difficult. So instead, it's always better to hold slightly wider. Preferably you just click and you don't have to move your mouse. But if you do have to move your mouse, you want to have to flick inwards because then they can't really do anything to confuse you. They're probably not going to change direction. They might do. They're you know, like, even if they stop, that's fine. You're still going to them. And this is why it's good to train this. This is also really good for dealing with multiple targets because in order to actually improve your score on this, you have to process lots of targets. Now, one of the issues that I encounter when I'm coaching people on this is they struggle to understand the target's movement, or they feel like they need to be moving their mouse all the time and flicking and like doing this and, you know, all that kind of thing. You don't have to. It's fine. Let the target do the work for you. To improve your target reading, you can do tracking. Now, tracking is any time when you are keeping your crosshair on a target for an extended period of time. So I'm going to pick a fairly easy scenario here. Most of this information that I'm saying is in my aim guide, by the way. It's in the it's pinned in the Game Help and Tips channel in Galorants. So let's look at controls for it. So this is a floating target. It is bouncing around. This target has no context. We can't say it's against a wall, therefore it's going to go up. We can't say it's against the floor. Sorry, we can't predict its movement, basically. You can get an idea of roughly what time it's going to move, but it is effectively random. And it will do things to confuse you. So, how do we do this? Tracking a target it's going to require some mouse control, which you probably lack if you're just a Valorant player, because you don't need to use this kind of aim. But the important thing, the reason why you should train this kind of scenario, if you play Valorant, is because it teaches you target reading. In order to stay on the target, you have to respond to its changes in direction and then stay on target. And this is going to really help you understand when targets change direction, when they try and dodge, when they do weird things, basically. And it is really, really tempting to, when you're focusing on this, to death grip your mouse, right? To like have a lot of tension, and you end up doing this kind of thing. You gotta relax. This is another thing. This is another skill to learn that will improve your aim. You can also, another thing that I see is people, when they try and get back on the target, they'll go like this, right? They will go past it, they'll go through it. Because they're trying to, I think they're just going too fast. And then if someone's doing this, it means they're not properly reading the target, because they're not staying on the target for any period of time. So if you're doing this, make sure you're focusing on matching its speed and going for a soft landing so you land in the middle-ish. Basically so you don't overshoot like that. So when you fall off it, that's okay. We just get back on. Nice and soft. Nice and gentle, like that. And my tracking is kind of garbage, but that's okay. What type of mouse pad do I use? I use the Cooler Master MP511 XXL. Well, I really like it. It was recommended to me by my friend, who is, I think, possibly top performer on Aerogelic. Not anymore. He's number 9. He was number 1. Thoughts on speed versus control pads? That depends. If you play something like, yeah. So if you are a tracking main, if you do a lot of tracking, go for a speed pad. If you play TAC FPS, if you do a lot of click timing, I'd focus on a control pad, because it is very much personal preference. But so my mouse pad doesn't like slow me down really as I move my mouse. But it has just enough bite to it, just enough texture to it, that I can still stop fairly quickly using it. Speed pads makes control very hard. That said, I do know people that use a sky pad, which is a glass pad. And sorry, I have a bit of a sore throat. And PFT mouse feet. For minimal friction. But personally, I prefer a control pad. I'd like to try a sky pad, but control for me, because I need to be able to stop when I do click timing. Okay, so what does that all mean for you, the Valorant player, you, the viewer? The real trick to improving your aim, even outside of Kovaak, you can do this in Deathmatch, is to be consciously trying to improve it. It can be very easy to get into a kind of a rut, right? It can be very easy to fall into habits where you're just kind of vibing, you're not really thinking, you're just doing, and you're just reinforcing an existing strength. And if you do that long enough, you get very good at that, but you never tackle your weaknesses. You never solve any problems. So since I said processing is a very important skill, I am writing this into the new version of my aim guide, but I'm going to be writing a routine, which is a deathmatch routine that you can do. It uses the range a bit as well. So if I hop on over to Valorant, Kovaak's begone, Valorant, hello. It's gone a bit strange. Hang on. Why is there dancing viper? Okay. Yeah, good enough. So, what I recommend is that you... What is this viper dancing? Most people don't constantly think about their crosshair placement in their aim. Yeah, crosshair placement is very important. Crosshair placement just makes life easy for you. It means that you don't have to aim as much, and it makes aim as easy as possible. Okay. So, something I see people do when they're trying to improve their aim is they go to the hard bots like this, and then they do this kind of thing. Where they're just kind of reacting to seeing it, and they're not really trying to hit the head. So this is not really aiming. This isn't really going to help you. And if you can't aim, if you can't process these targets fast enough, like, you're not really going to learn anything. So what I really recommend that you do is you go to a level that you can do where you can actually see them before you have to aim at them, like this. And I would just stand there and I would watch them. So you're focusing on looking at the head. Okay, great. We do this and then we that again, and then we work on move the mouse to it, move the mouse to it. This isn't clicking, this is just moving the mouse. So you're not having to worry about the timing, you're just having to worry about getting your crosshair roughly there. This takes the complication of the click out. And then you can work on the click. And this is how you build it up. So let's say you want to learn how to do the hard bots. First thing I do is I watch them. And you know, you should be able to intuitively tell, would I be able to hit that shot with control? The answer is probably no for most people. So you go, all right, cool. Right, let's move our mouse to it. Especially for these wider flicks, it gets difficult. And this takes the complication of the click out. Once you can do that and you're reasonably happy with it, and it's like, yeah, I can get my crosshair there in time, then you start to work on the click. Next up is deathmatch. And bear in mind I haven't warmed up, so, and this is actually great because I haven't warmed up. So what we're going to do is we are going to look at, damn, that person's even higher level than me. 494. Split, I miss it. They don't know the meaning of the word. So a lot of what I do, I'm just going to show you how I warm up, and how I personally try and improve my aim. So I don't use a sheriff, because I'm not trying to learn to use a sheriff. I'm trying to use a rifle, which I use most of the time. You might have heard of the Miyagi method, where you track the head. With the sheriff, I don't think that's very useful. I personally, I mean, I guess it's fine for helping you remember to look at the head, but personally, I'm trying to get my eyes onto the target where I'm looking at the target's head, so I can actually process where it is and process the shot. Because I know a lot of people in Valorant, they actually don't aim. They see an enemy and they go, I should shoot them like that, rather than I need to click their head. I need to kill them by headshotting them. And you will die in deathmatch. It's fine. It happens. So it's a bit slow that I didn't fully process where she was. I looked at her and I was like, yep, that's a head. And then I didn't click. And starting my warm-up is always really bad like this. I'm always looking at them and I'm like, I don't click until I understand where the head is. And it sounds super obvious, but like in that situation, my brain just kind of glazed over it. I was like, yeah, I didn't fully process she was there till afterwards. Once you can do that, you work on going, okay, I'm going to decrease the time to kill, because you're going for those headshots, you're looking at the headshots, and you're trying to, and then you go, great, I'm going to try and kill the enemies only with headshots, and you use the Vandal or the Phantom for this, because you want to train that trigger discipline into yourself. You want to not get into the habit of going, I've got a Vandal, I can spray. That is not how we want it. Now, as I mentioned in Kovaaks, in aim training, so aim lab, aim beast, Kovaaks, all that stuff, it's all about killing targets close to each other. And Valorant is a game where you are aiming. Actually, not a lot of the time. There isn't constant action. You're not constantly fighting. There's a lot of downtime between kills and between fights. You spend most of your rounds not actually shooting anyone. But when you do get into a fight, it's really important that you get it right and that you actually hit your shots. Now, what a lot of people do, after they get a kill, their brain switches off. They pull out their knife. They reload. They do something to reset themselves, because there's almost like a cooldown in their brain before they can kill somebody else, before they feel, yeah, they might spray the ground, before they feel comfortable and ready to take another shot. And what we want to do is we want to decrease that time it takes you to be ready to do another shot. And that is exactly the same as improving in aim training, but we're doing it in Valorant. So when you're like, yeah, when I do like static clicking or dynamic clicking, I can kill like 1.5, 2 targets per second, even if they're difficult. Why can I not do that in Valorant? If someone peeks me and then someone goes to trade them, why am I not able to deal with that person? I thought this myself about 6 weeks ago. I don't know why it took me so long to make that connection, but it did. And so I started playing deathmatch with sound on, which is unusual. I usually did it sound off and I just listened to music. And I was using the sound to find groups of people, trying to find the next fight. So as soon as I get a kill, I am instantly looking for the next one. So step 1 is make sure you can process where the head is. Okay. Step 2, work on actually headshotting the head after, like, when you're processing where it is. This is going to go hand in hand with crosshair placement just because it makes it easier. The next step is, once you're able to kill people quickly, you've got a very low time to kill, you're just getting those headshots. Once you've done that, you try and find the next target as quickly as possible. And you will probably find that you have less control for that second kill, especially if it's shortly afterwards. You struggle to process where they are. You struggle to get your crosshair on them. You spray a little bit more. You just play worse, right? So chaining kills together in deathmatch is, once you can already get the headshots, is just like hands down the best way to improve your aim in Valorant. Because you're against real people who do not want to be shot, moving like a real person with the gun that you use in your game, and you're working on, just headshot them. And this is where movement comes in. This is where you start learning how to do these little side steps to predict the next person's shot. And it allows you to basically, so once you hit like platinum-ish, usually when I see people stuck in plat, one of the big ones is they never expect the trade. See people really struggling to deal with crossfires, to deal with fights happening close together. This helps you be able to do that. This helps you go, I was expecting the trade, but I can't do anything about it. What if I can just headshot both of them? I mean, it's risky, but sometimes you have to. It's going to let you do these really ridiculous clutches. I think there was a clutch at the Game Changers championship where I think someone was stuck in a 1v3 and they got triple peaked and managed to headshot all of them. Which is what? But it's just those fundamentals. So if you warm up with deathmatch by improving your processing, not just your mouse control or aim training or whatever, do the deathmatch, focus on where they are, work on training those kills together, then go into game, you're going to be in such a good spot. It was Bob? Yeah, that makes sense. Bob is like that. She's amazing. You're going to be in a much better spot. Now, if you want to take it beyond that, if you want to do the aim training, I really recommend Kovaak's Aim Trainer, which is on Steam. It does cost a bit of money. I think it's like about £10. That's like $15, €15. I don't know. It's not like super expensive anyway. I recommend using Kovaak's to just find a scenario that tackles your weaknesses. Oh, it's on sale? Great. That tackles your weaknesses. Now, if you want to do a routine, cool, great. Routines are good. I mostly find routines helpful for finding new scenarios that are helpful. I never stick to a routine, never stick to a playlist. It might be because I have ADHD, but I have a lot of playlists, I have a lot of routines saved, I've got a lot of scenarios starred, and I just click the ones that I feel like I'll want to work on and that are difficult. If I'm like, my tracking kind of sucks, I go do some tracking. If I'm like, okay, I want to go work on the, like Bardolph's method of static click timing, where you do a very fast flick and then a slow micro adjustment with very high accuracy, maybe I'll go do that. That might be because I have like 1,000 hours in aim trainers. And, I have the scenarios handy. That's the hard bit, finding scenarios. But you can do this for any game. Like, let's say you play like, I don't know, Apex, and you're like, man, I really suck with this gun. Okay, go get better with that gun. Go do arenas with it. Where again, you're focusing on seeing the target, processing them, expecting them. Maybe do Overwatch. You do the same thing. You go, wow, I am decent at tracking in Kovaak's, but I can't do it when I'm running around or when I'm jumping. Cool. Go to the practice range thingy there. Grab some targets and just keep jumping while tracking the head. See if you can do it. Get better at it. What we try, we get better at. Now, there is value in like cross-training. There is value in training in other games. But probably not unless you have a lot of time or unless you're playing them anyway. But it can really help to have that like complementary skill. So like if you're serious about Valorant and you're serious about Overwatch, for example, you don't want to play like projectile tank or something. Because that's not going to help you in Valorant. Like the skills that you're learning for your aim are not useful there. You want to go hit scan wherever possible. Projectile is more fun. You are different to me. I do not think that. Projectile requires better prediction because you have to aim in front of the target, not on the target, and actually fire when your crosshair isn't on the target, which I don't like, but it works for some people. Now, I mean, you can't go play Reinhardt and go whack and suddenly become a mega accurate aimer. Yeah, I'm sorry. Playing tank will probably not get you to be an amazing aimer. Unless you're playing D.Va, that might work. I think D.Va's hit scan, right? Anyway, this is Valorant. Galorants. We are a Valorant community. So if you want a cool list of scenarios, if you want some more info on that, check out my aim guide, which is available in places. Galorants Game Help and Tips. I can also post it in Twitch chat for people who are not there. But you want to improve your aim, then work on the mental side of it. Work on the physical side of it. Make sure your sensitivity is not something ridiculous. And work on that crosshair placement, because while in training we embrace difficulty, we try and do things that are difficult because then we get better at them. If you're comfortable with it, you're not learning anything. In games, we lean on everything we can as a crutch. We try and squeeze out the most possible performance with as little effort as possible. Because why wouldn't you? You're trying to win. And this is why you have a good mouse, like a fairly light mouse that allows you to move your mouse easily, have more control over it. This is why you play with a sensitivity that helps you, that is still allows you to do a 180, but still, but probably not much more than that. It allows you to do allows you to have control over that small range of motion, so you can actually hit those very precise headshots when it matters, even at long range. This is why you want to have good FPS. I actually train sometimes in Kovaaks with input lag, simulated input lag, so that I can't adjust my flip on the fly. I'd never do that in a real game. Sometimes I play with a sensitivity randomizer. If I had it hit a plateau, if I'm like, I've been stuck on this scenario for like a month and I haven't hit high score and it's really frustrating, so I grab a sensitivity randomizer. I train with that where I have to be constantly aware of and responding to what my crosshair's doing, because my sensitivity is changing constantly every 0.01 seconds, like every millisecond it's changing. I do that for a bit. It just helps me break any habits. We mix it up. Do I want to do that in a real game? Probably not. Only when I am able to do something outside of Valorant, and maybe you can do things in deathmatch. I coached someone, I think she's immortal. She's not immortal. Iron 3, that's the opposite of immortal. Use Iron 3 down from Bronze 2. I watched her live. I don't usually do that. She couldn't hit a shot. She was spraying. Even though her crosshair placement was okay, she was mentally overwhelmed. It was all too fast for her. She was panicking, and she wasn't aiming. So even though she's NA and I was EU, hopped on into a custom on my NA account with her, 1v1'd her. Her aim is crispy. Like, she could headshot me. Even though my movement is good, even though I was disengaging, using cover, my crosshair placement was good, she could kill me. Once I made sure she wasn't over peeking. And she was actually clearing her angles. And I was like, okay, can you perform like this in deathmatch? And she said, yeah. But I can't do it in ranked games. I said, can you do it in Spike Rush? And she said, most of the time I struggle with some of the guns. I was like, okay, cool. Maybe work on those guns. I said, can you do it in unrated? And she says, yeah, most of the time, actually. She can usually aim like that in unrated, and she does really well. And she plays ranked, and it all goes out the window because she panics. She stops actually thinking. And at that level, it doesn't matter that you play Kovaaks. Like, your aim is not the problem. It's that you're not using it. And this is probably one of the biggest issues I see. I coach a EMEA VCT Game Changers team, and one of my players, her mental is not amazing. Goes up and down. But when her mental is bad, when she's going through a bad period and she's not, she's getting very frustrated with herself, she stops aiming. She just begins to kind of just shoot at them rather than aim for the head. So I say, hey, go play some Kovaaks. Try and have 95% plus accuracy, especially on the scenarios that you're bad at. And she does it, and she just tries to go as fast as she would in a real game, and she goes, oh, wait, yeah, okay, that's the problem. It's that I'm not actually aiming in a real game. So you can start with deathmatch and work up until you can do it in ranked. And if you're doing it in ranked, and if like no matter what you can't do it in ranked, you're trying like super hard, you can do it in unrated, but ranked is just this like mental block for you. If you can't improve your aim in ranked, it's a mental issue. Gotta tackle that mental. You've gotta like, breathe, find out why you're so scared, and just try and ground yourself. And that is way beyond the scope of how to improve your aim, but maybe playing on an alt account where you don't care about your rank as much, maybe that helps. So that when you do get into a ranked game, that like baseline skill is a little bit better. Anyone have questions? Your headshot percentage has only gone up 1% between iron and diamond. Yeah, like, I mean, that probably means that your aim's actually improved with your rank, because, yeah. Worth noting that depending on who you play, your headshot percentage is probably going to be lower. Like, Killjoys will have lower headshot percentage because your turret does location damage, and headshot percentage is calculated by damage to locations of the body. So if your Killjoy turret hits people in the body, then it's counting against your headshot percentage. Race players will also have lower headshot percentage because even though I don't think it does locational damage, that her abilities, there's a lot of very wild repositioning, and you can deal a lot of damage while still moving on Rays, because if you spray just as you're landing with like a Ray satchel or something, you can often still get the kill before they can kill you. Much like, I mean, even if you look at some pros, right? If you look at like any duelist player who plays Rays, they will have a lower headshot percentage on Rays than on anyone else. So, yeah. Does anyone have? Yeah, my aim is fine. Like, my aim's fine. I play Rays and my headshot percentage goes down to like 18% or something. When I play Sova, it's like 40%. And I think it's because like on Rays, I'm doing a lot just like yeet myself at the enemy and putting myself in deliberately dangerous situations to like take space. But yeah. Satchel brain. It works. I get kills, even if they're not headshots. And the most important part of improving your aim, improving your gameplay, improving your mechanics, improving your rank is it's okay to suck. Like, you're going to be bad at it. If you were already good at it and you just headshot everyone all the time, you would probably be bored. I mean, maybe you would, like, I mean, I'm not sure people who, like, use, like, cheats and aimbot and stuff actually have fun, because they're not really doing anything. They're just running around and being like, yeah, they died and I'm winning, and is that fun? Probably not if you play Valorant. We learn through mistakes. We learn by getting it wrong. If you see clips on TikTok of YouTube of people doing those, like for example, those raise out plays. Yeah, cheaters tend to have horrible mentals, right? I talked to someone who did it. They said their fun was making sure their enemies have no fun, not winning. Like, okay, that's odd, but if you really want to be good at the game, you want to be good at the game, you want to be challenged, you want to improve. It's insecurity, yeah. It's fine to be bad at things. Everyone who got good at playing aggressive, playing confidently, who got better at aiming, who got better at doing those ridiculous raise plays where you double satchel and then shotgun like 3 people in Radiant and somehow it still works out. Those people didn't just do it because they thought, I can do this. I know how raise satchels work. No, they did it by trying that same thing with satchels, playing those aggressive plays hundreds of times and learning from it and improving and getting it wrong and dying and throwing, and then, like, their team were annoyed at them, probably. But they learned. Now they can do it. So when you're trying to bring things into your games, when you're trying to bring that aim in, don't worry so much about your performance. If you die, if you mess up, don't get mad at yourself. Don't get angry. Just think, okay, I tried to do that and it didn't work. But you tried, and that is the important thing. That you tried to do it, and if you can even go, okay, I needed to flick faster there, or I really struggled to track them there, or my movement was kind of bad there, or maybe like, oh, they were already aiming at me. It's because like they had info on me because they made noise, or like anything like that. If you can find something actionable, if you can find out why it didn't work, then that's something you can fix. That's something you can think about next time and begin to implement. So that's how to improve your aim. Try and do it, basically. But understanding it really helps. And if you're not in Galorants, hit Discord, !Discord in the Twitch chat. If you are in Galorants, go check out the Game Help and Tips channel, because that's where I hang out. You just want to know how to see the people that seem to find you before you have any idea where anyone is. I mean, that sounds like it's a game sense issue. That sounds like it's maybe you are playing too passive. Maybe you are not taking that information yourself. If you hide in a corner, they might check you and kill you. Start of the round, where are they? They're probably trying to do the thing that they do on that thing. If they're attacking, they're probably attacking somewhere. If they're defending, they're probably on site. Maybe they push out. I don't know. Like, you build up on that. But I might do a coaching session on a Galorants Learning Program session on information. Building your game sense using information. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to go quiet so people can ask questions. I am seeing no questions. Oh, hello, Taffy Bunny. Came across the investment good, but your movement's soft, not good at thinking. And I'm not good at thinking. What can I do to improve? Good question. I need to run another lesson on movement because it's difficult and important and beyond something I can answer in like quickly. But what I can tell you is the goal in Valorant, one of the most important things about Valorant, beyond, you know, aim and crosshair placement, is don't be in their crosshair, right? So when we're talking about small movements in fights, the foundation of all good movement is disengage. When you're in a fight that you're not comfortable with, you disengage. When the enemy is trying to shoot at you, you disengage. And to begin with, that is behind cover. As it gets to higher level of gameplay, it gets to sidesteps. So if you watch Radiant gameplay, Xander, who was on V1, has really good movement. He'll do a lot of anticipating the enemy's step, like anticipating the enemy's shot. So let's say I see an enemy, you end up having separate sensitivities for Valorant and Overwatch. It's fine. You'll still improve, especially like the mental aspect. There are a lot of people who do that. Yeah, I know people who play on multiple senses. And Hang on a second, I'm going to answer the movement question, then I'll answer the jet question. So, let's say an enemy is running out here, right? And they're not looking at me, and I shoot, but oh no, I didn't do the thing that Vixie said in her coaching session, which is process where they are before you try and shoot them. And you miss, right? Let's say you try and shoot them and you miss. What are they going to do? They're going to turn around and they're going to try and shoot me. So I can anticipate their shot because I know they're just going to flick and try and shoot me. I can anticipate their shot and move. So that's the higher level of movement. I will do a lesson on on movement in the future. But on a basic level, that's it. It's don't be in their crosshair. You want to throw them off. You want to be out the way, and most importantly, using cover and isolating them. So if you're in fights and you're going like this, you're doing it wrong. You need to be like if you're doing this and you've been here for like 2 shots, they're like in a high lobby, they're probably just going to kill you. However, if you're in this situation, you go like this, then you're in a good situation and you're actually going to live. So if you're staying in fight for a long time, probably dead. Do you have any tips on how to fight against specific agents like Jet and Neon? I have trouble tracking their heads when they ult because they're just strafing and I feel like it's possible to kill them unless it's a lucky shot. Okay, I don't know if you hear at the beginning, but I talked about how to deal with moving targets, which will really help you. It is processing the target. It is learning to understand their movement and predict it. It's improving your target reading so you can actually just move to their head and click them. You can also do what G2 Giuliano does, which is have good tracking with your recoil. So she draws really neat lines. So if she sees an enemy jumping or running away or strafing or whatever, then she does that. And she just like tracks them perfectly, even though she's in recoil. I think that's from playing CSGO. But my tips are rewatch this VOD, especially when I'm talking about dynamic click timing and target reading. Any other questions? Oh, another thing to do against people like Jet and Neon who are strafing and stuff is to practice in a game that is not Valorant, where you actually have people running around in the open. Stuff with a higher time to kill, because then you're more exposed to people who are running around and won't die instantly. It just gives you a little bit more practice. Also, if you have a friend, get them to play Neon and just run around like this. And then you can just kill them over and over again. Any more questions before I end? What's the best way to aim a flick? Look at it, move your crosshair there, then click. You're going to need to be a little bit more specific. I also talked about static clicking and flicking earlier. If you want a good static technique, I recommend looking at Bardos. His method is pretty good. It's used by all the top static aimers, so yeah. This is click timing, so you think about the effective reaction time that I talked about at the start. How do you not overshoot? Getting used to your sense and understanding the movement. Yeah, just try not to overshoot. Like, that sounds super simple and kind of like, I guess impolite, but no, really, it's just the way you stop overshooting is you try not to overshoot. You try and underflick. You, right. Let's do something where I know I'm going to struggle. Because I don't have time to aim. I don't have time to fly. Okay. Okay, so a lot of it is just processing, but some of it is learning your distance. So let's say I want to flick from here to here, which I know I can't do easily. Let's say I do a big flick. Boom. Oh no, I went too far. So I'm going to try and underflick this time. Oh, I still overflicked. Let's try and underflick a bit more. Okay, we're getting closer. Oh, that was actually underflicking. Let's go a little bit further. And it's just adjusting it. It is better to underflick than it is to overflick. And this is because it is less mass movement. It is more mass movement to go like this than to go like this. Bardos talks about this. The method is quick flick, and you want to flick fast enough that you can't like adjust halfway through. You don't want to do this kind of thing. This is not a good way to do it. So you want to be flicking fast enough that you can't adjust your flick partway through. So let's say I go from here. I want to go fast enough that I can't use my eyes. And oh, so even if so it's better to underflick and then do it. So the best way to train this is quick flick, slow micro adjustment. Even if you overflick, slow micro adjustment, slow micro adjustment, quick, slow micro adjustment, quick, slow adjustment. Slow adjustment. I hate how wide this is. That's basically it. How to stop overshooting is stop overshooting. Slow down. It is okay to have a bad score if you are training something specific. Because your score when you're trying not to overshoot compared to when you don't care if you overshoot are not the same thing. Like they're almost irrelevant to each other because you're training two different things. So compare yourself to your performance when you are trying not to overshoot. Use aim trainers. Isolate that problem. I play on a higher sensitivity than most people. Part of that is because it's easier for me to train precision over speed. Part of it is just physical issues, like I have hypermobility issues, so my shoulder doesn't really work so great. So low sense means flicks are they require more muscle and they're more difficult, like very fast movements. So I just increase my sense a bit. I play on 1600 215, which is 38 centimeters per 360-degree rotation. Okay, and with that, I am going to go. Hope you all have a lovely day. I hope your aim improves and you, and if you were late to this, I really recommend you go back and watch it. Especially when I'm talking about things like how to deal with moving targets, how to flick, how to talk about effective reaction time, all that processing time, all that's so important. Okay. Have a good one.